Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live as Helen Keller did? No sound, no sight. Meet Burgon Jensen.
Because I've lived it for 18 years, I kind of know, how things can get hard.
We could just tell that she wasn't hearing well.
Yeah.
And we thought, please, not one more thing. It's not fair. This beautiful little girl to have one more thing go wrong.
Burgon Jensen knows all too well what it's like to feel disappointed, lonely, and unsure. Yet in spite of everything, Burgon sees a beauty in this world that some of us may never understand.
They go, oh, I can see everything, But so can I, but just in a different way.
Burgon has vision. It's just her own way of seeing the world. And in her world, she doesn't see ugly and she doesn't hear impossible.
Yeah, I think I was meant to teach people that, just because you're blind or deaf or both or have other disabilities doesn't mean that you can't do anything, because you can.
Burgon Jensen was born a healthy baby on August 17, 1991.
And the first day that she was in the hospital, and I had my best big brother t-shirt on, so I was like 4 years old, holding my new little sister, and it was an awesome experience.
Yet within a short 3 months, her mother noticed something a bit unusual.
I had another baby, an older son, and I knew how he would follow things. And so when you had the little doll up in front and you would have them watch it, she was not following it.
Suspicions grew for the Jensens until they took little Burgon to the ophthalmologist.
And he said, well, your kid's blind. And that's how we were told.
Doctors diagnosed Burgon with retinitis pigmentosa, commonly known as RP. This condition is caused by genetic defects which result in varying levels of impaired vision. Most people gradually lose night vision and then peripheral sight. But things were a little different with Burgon. She went completely blind by the age of 3.
And it was such a shock, and I just cried and cried. And then we thought, we don't have any more time for this. We've got to move on with our life.
A tiny pair of pink glasses helped Burgon just after she was born. Yet in spite of their positive outlook, the Jensens knew they had to be realistic about the future.
I just hoped that from that day, when she saw our faces, that she would remember us, because we knew it would get worse.
The end of school, she would say, let me see something, and she would look really close like this. And when she came back the following fall, she would say, let me see, and she would look like this.
The Jensens say they came to accept Burgon's loss of sight, but what they did not expect came almost 4 years later.
We could just tell that she wasn't hearing well. Her hearing would start getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And then we get hearing aids and we think, another gift. She can hear.
Doctors discovered Burgon as part of a small percentage of people with RP who experience loss of sight and hearing. Eventually, these small sound amplifiers simply weren't enough.
She had a dramatic drop in her hearing. It progressed to the point of needing a cochlear implant at 18.
It was scary because I've never had a surgery before. I was nervous. I was freaked out because I was like, why did this happen to me,
A cochlear implant is like a super hearing aid or mini computer inside your head. Within a working ear, hair cells act as sound receptors and transfer audio through the hearing nerve to the brain. But in Burgon's case, because her inner ear has been damaged, the sounds entering her ear are lost before ever reaching her brain. The cochlear implant's outer part acts as a microphone, carrying sound to the external mini-computer. This device converts the sound into digital information and sends it through the antenna to the receptor, which doctors surgically implanted in Burgon's head. This sends the digital sound into the inner ear, or what is known as the cochlea. From there, it goes through the hearing nerve to the brain. Bypassing the damaged inner ear, the cochlear implant provides Burgon a whole new way of hearing the world around her.
The incision's made, the device is put in under the skin, and the electrode array is placed into the cochlea. Once that's done, everything's closed up, and there's a healing time.
Soon after the surgery, Burgon could hear out of her new implant. But her audiologist says she still had to learn to make sense of what began as just noise.
I'm starting to hear with the implant, and I'm starting to like that a little bit better.
Although she has adjusted well to her condition, doctors say cochlear implants are not a quick fix allowing for perfect hearing. But for Burgon, the implant was enough to get her up and going again. Communicating, despite this inconvenience, has taken a lot of work for her to overcome, but she's had a lot of support.
I just remember pretty early on, she was different, that we had to speak right into her ear or help her around with her sight. But when you don't know any different, then you just compensate and make the best of the situation.
Her parents say that making the most of it meant not holding her back from anything.
The day after she turned 3 years old, she was getting on a school bus and taking a transfer on a city bus that would take her into her schools to the deaf and blind when she was in preschool. We couldn't get on the bus with her, so we followed and cried for the first 2 days, and then we thought, she's okay, she's safe, somebody will get her there. And that was a real turning point, I think, for both of us to say, you know what, she's on her way.
Discovering movement can be a challenge for any child, but Burgon had a learning curve of her own.
How about trying to tap your cane in front of you, left and right, left and right.
Whoa, my paper's flying away.
You do it.
It's a big rock.
Right, what's that big rock doing in the middle of the road? We have to walk around it.
It was so comical because, I mean, it was more of a baton than a walking instrument, but boy, she knows how to use it now. It was so cute.
She would come home from school, and that poor little kid would end up bruises. She looked like she was a battered child. I'd put her in the tub, and I would say, where did you get all these bruises? Oh, I crashed into the wall here, I hit this, I hit my shin, everything. And it was just kind of all part of the process of learning to use that cane.
Although the Jensens say they knew she would run into problems like this, they say shielding her from these experiences wouldn't have helped and could even have hurt her chances for future opportunities.
And we felt like, she is someday in her life going to have to wait in line for lunch. Someday she's going to have to do this and this with a seeing and a hearing person. And we thought from kindergarten on that was our choice, is to mainstream her, because we felt like the real world was our best choice for her.
Burgon was such a self-sufficient young lady. She was really good on her own. We tried to make sure that she fit in as much as a regular kid as possible. And of course, she was motivated on her own to do that.
The Jensens' decision to mainstream meant Burgon would attend a public school, as opposed to one designed to meet special needs like schools for the blind and deaf.
I was in kindergarten, and they tried to teach me large print, but my nose was like an inch away from the paper.
Laying that on her, learn to read Braille we were thinking, there's no way she can do that. Wow. Again, she proved us wrong, and she took off. She learned it way faster than she should have.
In Braille, I didn't have to look at anything. I could just feel it, which was nice. So I liked it. It was a nice change.
With her hearing aids, cane skills, and Braille fluency, Burgon acclimated herself to what we would think of as normal life. But before she even got her cochlear implant, Burgon had a feeling something else was about to change. She told her mom she wanted to learn American Sign Language.
And she just kept saying, Mom, I really feel like I'm going to need this in my life. And I said, oh, Burgon, it's going to just be so hard, honey. You're going to have to try to feel every little thing. She says, I can do it. And it was just like a fish to water. She just ate it up. And it ended up to be her lifeline. And just like Helen Keller, she would just feel those movements with her hand.
Technology also helps Burgon adapt, and the Jensens say technology creates miracles in her life. from small but thick glasses to a high-tech supercomputer in her head, as well as a braille machine and many, many other devices. But it's not only the braille machine or even the cochlear implant that allows Burgon to function on a daily basis. Most people don't think twice about the simple process of setting an alarm at night and waking up to the sound of it the next morning. But for Burgon, life has its own personal wake-up call.
Sometimes they'll ask me, like, how do you get dressed in the morning? How do you brush your teeth?
And Burgon's answer? Mom and Dad.
Just kind of mats it in there a little bit better. I said, I'll have you looking like Lucille Ball.
No, not again.
I think I'll have Dad do your eyelashes because he's got a steadier hand than I do.
Most girls probably never imagined their dad putting on makeup for them.
Well, my mom picks out my clothes. She makes sure they match. But sometimes I memorize, like, I would know this shirt if I picked it up, like in the laundry. I would just feel the front of it and the design on the front. If I have a specific shirt that I like to wear, then I'll look for that shirt just by feeling the front of it.
You would think that she would get clothes backwards. Never. Never. I tell her what color a shirt is when I buy it, or she asks me, and never again. She has, even without a tag, maybe the shoulders are just a touch different, or something like that. It's pretty amazing.
Even eating dinner, Burgon has her own way of doing things.
We would set up her plate like a clock. So at 12 o'clock is your chicken, and at 1 o'clock is your broccoli, and at 3 o'clock is your carrots. And so it's you know, she just has to ask, you know, tell me what's on my plate and where it is.
I think it would be really hard if you weren't educated and you didn't know what you were doing, but because I've learned so much from my parents, I mean, they've taught me how to cook and to vacuum and to do other chores around the house.
When we cook, there are little dots that go on things around our house. The microwave. We have a little braille P for popcorn, so she knows how to use the microwave. On the stove, there are just little stick-on dots. In the dryer, when you turn the dryer back, you don't think about it. There's nothing to know that it's all the way back. You have to turn it to that point. So there'd just be a little dot.
It's kind of weird because when you're in the moment, you really don't realize that you're making accommodations. It just kind of happens.